Thank you, Terry. I was told a little while ago that someone almost didn't recognize me without my hat. So just in case you didn't know, Jean Boulin here. Nice to have you all here. What a nice group. What I'd like to do this afternoon is introduce my boss. That's a nice thing to do. Scott Hine has been with us at the Building Technologies program since 2008 now, I think it was, Scott. And he joined EERE as director of our Office of Information and Business Management Systems. And fortunately for us, was looped into the Building Technologies program here, where he's functioned as the acting program manager. He is focused on stakeholder relations at Building Technologies and improving our strategic directions activities. Scott functioned as a deputy CIO director, IT director for the Naval Engineering Logistics Office, where he provided support to operational and mission-critical U.S. Navy programs supporting the global war on terror. His information is in detail in your information handouts. Scott, in closing, got his master's degree in systems engineering from SUNY Binghamton University and bachelor's in management information systems from George Mason University. Scott Hines. Nice to have you with us.
Afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having me here today. Again, as Jean mentioned, I'm the acting program manager for the Building Technologies program, and I'm going to put that into perspective in a moment. I'm going to show you a little bit about the EERE Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy organizational chart. Some things have changed clearly since the election, the new administration. There's been new political leadership that has shown up. I'm not confident that many of you have seen or take the time to take a look at the EERE org chart, but I do think it's appropriate, and I'll walk through that in a moment. But before I get to that, I did want to say thank you very much for each of you being here. This topic is critically important to the country, critically important to what we do at the Department of Energy, critically important to Secretary Chu at the Department of Energy, in that EE, energy efficiency, that portion of the EERE portfolio is not just the low-hanging fruit. The Secretary and others have said it is the fruit on the ground, and that we really have to take every opportunity we can to improve the energy efficiency in our buildings. That's clearly the goal. There's been renewed emphasis of the program within the EERE portfolio, and I'm going to be weaving that through my discussion here for the next half hour or so. So again, thank you very much. Two last points before I get into the briefing again is, as the acting program manager, ultimately at the end of the day, it is me or whoever is sitting in my chair is responsible for putting this country in a position to deploy and implement solutions to get to net zero energy buildings, both commercial and residential, by the year 2020 and 2025. And I cannot do that alone. I need your help. Clearly, building codes is a key component to that. And so what I'd like to say, and one of the things I was taught in my DOD life, Department of Defense, which is where I came prior, as Jean mentioned, prior to January of 2008, is I want each of you to have a takeaway. And if the one takeaway you had and you brought back to your constituents, your stakeholders, your leaders, is I need you to help me help the country to get to enforcing building codes that improve the energy efficiency of buildings, both commercial and residential. That's the key statement. If that's all you hear from me for the next half hour, 45 minutes, that is it. Scott Hine, the PM of the Building Technologies program, wants each of you to go back and figure out how you can help me get to net zero energy buildings in the next 20 to 30 years. So with that as a backdrop, let me get into this. You're not going to be able to read that, I understand. The briefing will be available online and will be on a CD in the near future, but let's see if I can get a cursor here. I don't know if this will help, but Kathy Zoy, Z-O-I, is the new EE1. She was confirmed about 5 weeks ago. She replaced Andy Karsner, if you know or have heard of Andy Karsner. The principal deputy, right below Kathy, apologize here. Henry Kelly just showed up a week ago Monday. He's our principal deputy assistant secretary. You may, if you were familiar with EERE organizational structures, that was John Misrock. Steve Chalk, who has been around for a while, he's now the COO, Chief Operating, sorry about that, COO. That took place, that move within the last week and a half. David Rogers was the acting program manager. I think he has spoken at this event a few times. He is now over here as the Director of Strategic Planning. That happened back in the February timeframe. And then I am somewhere over here as the Building Technologies Program Manager. Acting is after the name. Which I do it full time, but it's just an acting title. But there are 10 programs. I think that's one thing I'd also like you to know. There are 10 programs within the EERE portfolio. 5 of them fall within energy efficiency. 5 of them fall within renewable energy. I'll give you a little bit of a breakout about that in a moment. I think that's all I want to say. I apologize. I did want to say up front, if you have any questions whatsoever, no need to wait till the end. Just raise your hand, blurt it out, get my attention. I'll try to react promptly and as completely as I can. Again, we do have a little bit of a construct in terms of time, but between Charlie and myself, we have about an hour and a half, and we'll make that work real time on the fly here. So just bring any questions up at any time. Oh, sorry. There we go. Okay, so EE's role in advancing presidential priorities falls into 3 broad categories: energy security, economic, and environment, or environmental. I'm not going to read through much of this, but I'll pull out 3 key bullets, one from each category. In terms of energy security, we want to get to 1 million plug-ins by 2015. In terms of economics, we want to get to renewables comprising 10% of our energy utilization by 2012 and 25% by 2025. And then in terms of environmental, we clearly want to make U.S. a leader in climate change. Okay. So here's a little bit of a breakout. And again, I say there's 10 programs, but we separate on here our wind and water program, our wind and hydro. So if you added these up, it totals 11. But under electric power generation, we have our geothermal program, solar, wind, and hydro. Again, wind and hydro is one program managed by Megan McClure. Advanced technologies, we have our biomass, fuel cell, and advanced vehicles program. And then the sweet spot of all of this is energy efficiency. My program, buildings, the industrial technology or ITP program, federal energy management program, FEMP, and then the weatherization and intergovernmental affair program, also known as OWIP, Office of Weatherization and Intergovernmental Affairs. And if you looked across the entire portfolio, again, of our 10 programs, there's clearly one mission that we're trying to achieve with the $2.2 billion that we receive annually. It's to develop cost-competitive technologies to commercialize the research and development that we've put billions of dollars into over the history of EERE. And clearly that's our mission, that's our goal. R&D is a great thing to have, and solutions and tools and training are a great thing to have, but we need to get them out there into the workplace. We need to get them into the hands of people like you to reduce our dependence on fossil fuel and to become more independent and more secure. So let's see now. Let me talk a little bit. I'll shift a little bit to Recovery Act, and Charlie will speak to a little bit more about this in detail. $33 billion, I'm rounding up, was allocated to the Department of Energy for Recovery Act, and that's the terminology. If it's a point of emphasis, if I can put this maybe lessons learned. At one point early on, it was the ARRA, The White House said, let's drop that because it was getting confused with AARP and spell checkers. So you will hear, if you watch any of the political pundit shows, if you hear the president, if you hear any of the administration, it is the Recovery Act. So we use this all the time. I mean, this is in probably half of the emails I get, something to do with recovery one way or another. It is the driving force between that's going on within EERE, and we call it the Recovery Act. So again, that you may not need to use that, but it is part of the lifeblood of what we're doing here at EERE. But $33 billion came to the department. Over half of that was given or allocated to EERE, energy efficiency and renewable energy. This is a breakout of that. My program, the Building Technologies program, and I'll show some details on that in a minute. We were allocated a little bit short of $350 million. That fell into the discretionary funding. But these are broad categories on the 17. If you add that up, it comes to, I think we got it cut off, I apologize, but it's $17 billion out of that 33 that came to the entire department. Okay. So another way, graphically in a pie chart, the 16.8 or 17 billion that came to EERE, these are the broad categories. And the point that we want to make here in terms of the state energy program, SEP, 3.1 billion, clearly it was written into language, written into law that is tied to implementation and adoption of the current residential and or commercial code. Otherwise, funds will not be allocated. And it's not just the willingness and desire and agreement to adopt those, but it's also compliance. And that's a key part. Again, it's not just adoption, implementation, but it's compliance. And I'll continue to weave that through here. Any questions yet on anything? Okay. Here's my program, $350 million, rounding up again. 5 broad areas. Number one, and I'm not going to read through these in any amount of detail unless we need to, unless you want me to, but $100 million are advanced building technologies. This is the number one project for Secretary Chu within the Building Technologies program. It is whole building integration. Instead of looking at, and not that we weren't doing that already, but instead of looking at component parts, is how do we make a system, how do we optimize the system, and that system being a particular building. And so that's the goal of BTP1, Building Technologies Program, Recovery Act, project number one. But one of particular interest to perhaps most of you in this room is number 4, Building and Appliance Market Transformation. Bullet number 1, Expand Building Codes Adoption and State Implementation. That is the second highest funded project within our program. That's $72.5 million. Okay. So again, as a taxpayer, we all are, we're funding the Recovery Act. And you've heard, I'm sure, of Recovery.gov. You may not have heard of energy.gov/recovery, but I highly recommend that each of you go there, take a look. If you have questions, ask them. There's opportunities to do that online, and I will say, and I didn't drop this up front, but I have it at the end. I'm open to people calling me directly. Sending me an email is not really a good thing. I have like 1,000 unread emails in my inbox, so email gets lost. You can send me an email, but give me a call as well. We need to make sure we are transparent as a federal government. We need to make sure we are delivering on our promises of $789 billion of Recovery Act funds. So I recommend each of you go, take a look at the recovery.gov, either from a personal interest or a professional or both. And if you have any questions whatsoever, recommend you contact, through recovery.gov, but if it's a DOE or an EERE related question, please feel free to contact me directly. Okay, so another opportunity to implore you as stakeholders, constituents, key members of the community is how can you help? And so basically, I'd like state and local governments to again help me out, to partner on this matter. I want you to lead by example. I want you to incentivize efficiency, and I want you to raise the bar. Again, it's adopt, implement, and enforce. So those are the 3 operative words. Gene and I talk about it all the time. He and I are getting a tattoo later tonight. It's all on adopt, implement, and enforce. Okay, so we're right on that, Gene. That's the takeaway. That's what we need to do. Energy efficiency in buildings, fruit on the ground, and I cannot do it alone. All right, so now let me shift a little bit away from recovery and have you take a look at the EERE budget, the history going back 10 years or so. In the year 2000, we were at $1 billion. 2009, these are fiscal year. Currently, we're at 2.2. And again, that does not include the $17 billion of recovery. And this is a good opportunity to put that into perspective. We basically have a bureaucracy. We all know that the federal government is a bureaucracy. Some degree, it's intended to be that way, but perhaps not as bureaucratic as it is. But our business processes now have to, and all the key members of the EERE team need to manage not just your annual $2 billion, give or take. We're upwards of $20 billion, and the Recovery Act dollars, they're priority one. And so there's a lot of work going on. Part of that, again, of the recovery are SCP, state energy, weatherization, and energy efficiency conservation block grants. Charlie will talk about that. Those are three key components. So there's a lot of work, but effectively we're going from a $2 billion operation up to about a $20 billion. And all of this, again, shame on me, I was going to put in up front. EERE between headquarters in Washington, D.C., between the Golden Field office and our reimbursable positions at NETL, National Energy Technology Lab, we have approval for about 550 full-time equivalent federal employees. Of that 550, about 140 are vacant right now. But we have a plan to grow that number upwards of 1,000. So that's all based upon this trajectory, this planning. And it's not all Recovery Act related. It's showing the emphasis and the direction from the administration and from Secretary Chu to put more funding into EERE, and if you broke that component down, that portfolio, it's to put more funding into the EE portion of EERE. So if any of you are out there looking for new opportunities, you can talk to me later, shoot me your resume. Again, we're looking to grow from 410 to 550 to upwards of 1,100 people in the very near future. Okay, here's another breakout. This is the 2009 allocation. On the prior slide, it said $2.2 billion. We round a little bit here in the federal government. So, one key part here to take a look at is broadly the categories. The RE, the renewable power generation, $300 million. Advanced fuels and vehicles, $700 million. But EE, energy efficiency, a little short of $800 million. Clearly, there's my program, $140 million. We'd like to have more. We're driving to get more. But this is a nice way to take a look at basically where the administration, where the leadership is putting funding. And again, this is from 2009. These are current year program priorities for each of our 10 programs. Again, a lot of content-rich information here. But the second one, first sentence, that's what I mentioned up front. We need to implement a systems approach in deploying technologies to get to net zero energy buildings. Basically, if you don't know what that is, clearly it's a building would produce as much energy as it would use over a period of time. Huge goal, major undertaking. I'm going to give you a few metrics here in a minute in terms of really what the battle is, what the issue is we're up against. Oops, sorry. Okay. I think we're doing good on time. This is now I've shifted a little bit into a building technologies perspective. We started off EE and then we narrowed it down to some degree, not in terms of dollars recovery, and now I'm going to be talking primarily about the buildings program. And so three primary sectors that we take a look at: buildings, industry, and transportation. The buildings sector is the largest one, 40% in terms of energy consumption in the entire country. It's broken into, of that 40, 22% residential, 18 commercial. The keen and clear drivers within residential and commercial are heating and lighting. And you'll see in a moment that's where we're putting a great deal of our R&D work, as well as our staffing at both headquarters and at the field. This is a key chart. This is effectively, in every briefing I give, whether it be to any political, congressional, any budget briefing, this is basically chart number 2. Chart number 1 is the title, the date, my name, and this is number 2 right here. Can't impress upon you enough the importance of the buildings program. Again, Secretary Chu and the administration, it was so important, I guess I could have pulled back a little bit. Our Recovery Act funds, the $350 million, were announced by the President at the White House with Secretary Chu a little over a month ago. Not all of the programs within the federal government that received funding for the Recovery Act were announced by the President. It was done so for a reason, to put the importance of the President behind that, and to show that this is what we need to do. Everybody in the country, to some degree, is tied to a building, whether it be commercial or residential. Typically it's both. And we all have opportunities to implement and execute some type of EE, energy efficient remedy. Okay, I'll move on here. So these are our mission goals, mission vision and goals. Again, net zero energy. We develop technologies and techniques and tools. I put that up front. But let's get to the key part here, that I've intentionally put this in testimony for colleagues as well as for senior leadership. This is where we're driving. This is where we're looking right now. I'm not that concerned about new construction. I think with improvement in building codes, with awareness of the environment, climate change, energy efficiency will help improve the bottom line. I'm fairly confident that with our stewardship at the department, we'll be able to get to where we need to be from a new construction standpoint, both commercial and residential. But the key issue that we're confronted with, and we're not confident yet that we have a solution in place to resolve it, is the retrofit market. It is the 114 million homes out there. It is the 74 billion square feet of commercial space. How do we fix that in the next 10, 15, 20, 30 years? Commercial, I think we might be able to get there again, because building owners and operators want to get to a bottom line that is profitable. But it is the residential issue, the 114 million homes, that truly is a concern of the administration, of the Secretary. It's a real-time situation issue. I often weave in, whether I should or not is a different matter, but I have 3 children. I have twin daughters that just graduated from high school. I have a 16-year-old son. My wife is a teacher. I'm a public employee. She's a public employee. We make probably good money, but we're not rich. My twin daughters are about to go to college. I live in a 32-year-old home. I need to retrofit it. I need to put in new windows. I have a quote for $18,000, but I also have a bill to pay for over $40,000 for tuition, room and board, and whatever else I figured out. I just was told I need to buy refrigerators and microwaves and all this stuff that no one bought for me, but that's okay. But that's the issue, is, my mother and father, our neighbors, is they're not in situations and positions financially and economically to deploy measures to get to energy efficient improvements in their homes. It's 114 million homes, however we define that, dwellings. That's where we need to go. That's much broader than EERE, much broader than the Building Technologies Program, much broader than the department. This gets into congressional and presidential guidance in terms of more tax incentives, language improvements, and trying to figure out how do you incentivize homeowners to make these changes. So that's really where we're focusing a great deal when we talk about retrofit. Getting to EE, energy efficient implementation of remedies. I think we're going to get there, or we're headed in the right direction. For new construction, I'm not that worried about it. From commercial retrofit, but it's residential. Any questions yet from anybody? We're good? Oh, yes, sir. Okay, let me go right here. No, residential heating. Heating. Yes, sir. Okay, great. Thank you for the clarification. Yeah, lighting is a driver commercially, which I think most people realize. Residentially, it's HVAC or heating. Okay. Okay, let's see. All right. So this is the BTP Building Technologies Program budget over the prior 5 years. You're trying to show the growth pattern. FY9, we just went through that a moment ago, about $140 million. Our request for 2010 is a little short of $250 million, about $100 million growth, which we're very pleased with. It has support from the Secretary. It still is in negotiation, as you could imagine. It's broken into a couple of broad categories, and I'll get into a little bit of detail and break out of that in a moment. But yellow is is it? Okay, it's showing up as yellow there. Residential buildings integration, the bluish commercial buildings integration, emerging technologies. Clearly, that's the key of what we are. We're an R&D funded organization. That's the purple or lilac or plum or whatever you want to call that. Technology validation and market introduction, that's also known as TVMI. That's where the code group, Gene Boleyn and Ron Majette work out of. And then equipment standards. Okay. Oh, I keep doing page up. Okay. So here's a further breakout of the FY9 BTP Building Technologies Program budget. R&D, TVMI, Technology Validation, Market Introduction, that's commercialization and deployment, and then Appliance Standards and Analysis. Effectively, R&D consumes 71% of the entire $140 million. If you added up the residential building integration, the commercial building integration, and the emerging technologies, those three key areas fall within our R&D function. Then we have, again, TVMI, which is Energy Star, building codes, and marketing, and then Appliance Standards, which we'll talk about in a moment. Okay. Wow, my goodness. Okay. So this was the overall breakout of R&D. This is a more detailed breakout, again, from an FY9 point of view. The majority of where we're spending our money within our R&D portfolio is on lighting, and you can see the relative size of the other pieces of the pie. Nothing that I really need to walk you through unless there are any questions, but I just wanted to provide some additional amplification and detail on this. Oh, shoot. I'm left-handed, and I'm working this right-handed here, so sorry. I'll overcome. I'll adapt. I'm a military guy. I'll make it work. I was going to say I'd pull out my knife, but I don't think that's going to go over too well in here. I actually got caught at security in Dulles because I normally pack a tool, if you will, in my briefcase, but I normally think about it enough to remove it from my briefcase. But because I left Sunday morning and my wife and kids weren't that happy about it, I had to sneak out quickly. So I didn't take the time to remove everything I should have. So let me get back to where we are. All right. We did that one. Okay. Here we go. All right. We're back on now. Okay. So zero energy homes. We talk about energy efficiency, driving down the energy utilization within homes. I think we'll get there, but really what we need for a net zero energy home, again residential, is we think through efficiency implementation we can get to 60 to 70%, but it's really to get to net zero energy at the end of the year, at the end of a period. You need to implement renewable technologies, whether that be solar or geothermal or wind or what have you, or a combination of all of those. And that's just a point we're trying to make here, is that we can get to, we can get to 60 to 70% EE energy efficiency in a particular home if we have the codes in place, if we have the desire to get there. But it's that last 30 to 40%, it's the integration and implementation of RE, renewable energy. Okay. So we have a Building America program. It's a public-private partnership. It has 7 consortia and over 500 organizations. Basically, by 2020, we want to get to cost-neutral, net-zero energy homes. You know, we're doing best practices, retrofit, guide for contractors. Well, are most of you, are you aware of Building America? We got some nod of the head? Okay. Yeah, it's some of the things that, again, I've only been at it's a little bit of a conundrum, if you will. I've only been at the department for a year and a half, and then what we had happen is the prior administration left, new administration came in, and so the career federal team was there to bridge the gap in terms of legacy information. And a number of people under the new administration, it's not right, wrong, or indifferent. It's just a fact of life. It happens all the time, whether you change the party or not. And individuals were coming in, and they start asking questions. What is Building America? What is Builder's Challenge? What is the E-scale? What is home labeling? What are we doing with codes? And so you lose a lot of traction. Now, maybe you build a little bit of traction as well. Maybe you get a little momentum where you didn't have momentum before. Time will tell. Again, it's not for me to judge. It's my job and Gene's job and others from a federal point of view to react in an appropriate manner. But this is one of the things that Building America and Builders Challenge that came up with the new administration in terms of political appointees within the department, that they didn't have a great deal of knowledge and awareness of. And I'm not saying they should have, but they thought perhaps we could have done a better job marketing that. That's the only reason why I brought up the question. Okay. So CBI, Commercial Building Integration Program, we have national accounts. I think a key thing here, national accounts are building owners, developers that construct, they have a large portfolio of buildings. But what we're trying to do through CBI and through the Recovery Act is to have these national accounts where we typically, I think we right now have, we have about 23 national accounts. We're trying to grow that by about 50 through Recovery Act funding. And essentially, national account building owner or operator, what they agreed to is to do new construction, and you can see that by 50% improvement, and then retrofit about 30%. Other key parts, and I'm going to reach out to my state and local colleagues in the room. We have various energy alliances that we've developed, retailer, commercial, hospital, but we're launching in 2009 and 2010 a state and municipal energy alliance. So if you're interested, if you're a member of one of the 38 states, I think, that signed up, and there's a couple attendees from some states, if you're interested, let me know. Shoot me an email. You can go to our webpage. Drew Crawley, C-R-A-W-L-E-Y, Drew. Drew is the point of contact for our commercial buildings integration work. You can get to his email address and contact information from our webpage, but you have mine. It's in the briefing. But I mean it genuinely. If you want to get involved, we can only do this together. That was my statement up front. And like my grandmother told me once, no partnership is 50-50. Everybody has to give and everybody has to take a little bit. And so I ask you, I genuinely want you to come and help us out, get to where we need to be, and this is an opportunity. Okay, so market transformation, commercialization, deployment. This is part of our TVMI, Technology Validation and Market Introduction group. We do Energy Star work. Most of you, I'm sure, are familiar with E-Star, Energy Star, Energy Smart Schools. Maybe not. I have another slide on that. Energy Smart Hospitals. We have a solar decathlon coming up in October. Have most of you heard of that? Yes? Yeah? No? Good. Does anybody want to volunteer? We need volunteers. You want to come work on the mall for a week? The president has been invited. Secretary Chu will be there. Scott Hine will be there. So come on. All right. Fine. I'll be there. We need help. And then clearly, as I mentioned earlier, building codes falls under TVMI. One of the other things, and maybe I'll put that out there as well. Perhaps I should have, and we didn't. A good opportunity, I think, at least from my point of view. The buildings program is the largest of the 10 programs within EERE. We're approved for 53 or 4 team members, staff members. We're going to grow even larger. That was the point earlier where we're going to grow from overall in EE from 550 to maybe 1,100. Clearly, buildings will grow. I've been pushing that aggressively. Half of my team today is eligible to retire. Half of the 43 or so I have on board were approved for 55, give or take. And then within 5 years, 2/3 of the team is eligible to retire. Not me. I've got 10 years to go. And maybe longer. But within the code point of view, within TVMI, Technology Validation Market Introduction, right now there's only 2 team members. And one of them is over there, Gene, and the other one is Ron Majette. Most of you know Ron, I would imagine. And that is it. We're trying to fill that out a little bit more. We had a vacancy. I think it closed. I'm not sure where we are on that. We're trying to bring on a couple other folks. We're trying to bring on a presidential management fellow. I think he's going to be reporting here soon enough. So that might double it from 2 to 4, but clearly we need more than 4 people within building codes from our point of view. So enough on that one. Okay. Here's some more outreach campaigns and tools. I would ask you to, again, go to our webpage, take a look. Even if again, this might be for the states and the localities that are here, even if it perhaps doesn't fit clearly and cleanly into what it is you do, but you think it might with some of your colleagues back at the state from which you come, make them aware of Energy Smart Hospitals, Energy Smart Schools. All of this information is readily available on our webpage. Here's some more Energy Star outreach campaigns. All this is readily available on our webpage. Okay. So from a building codes point of view, what we're asking to do, what we're looking to do, what we're trying to do is to lock in transformation with the implementation and enforcement of EE, energy efficient building codes. So we want to need to upgrade our model codes. We're headed in that direction. Through our annual appropriations as well as through the Recovery Act, we will be providing financial and technical assistance to you, and that includes code compliance tools, design guides, online educational resources, and other matters. And effectively, that provides an off-ramp for market transformation. Oh, boy. Okay. I think I'm coming to the end here as well. So Appliance Standards, this is another key piece of the Building Technologies program. Clearly it is a focus of the President and Secretary Chu. The President had only been in office a few weeks when he stopped by the Department of Energy, I think on the 5th of February, it might be the 8th, I forget the exact date, and he put a memo, he gave a memo, gave guidance and direction to Secretary Chu at that time to implore the Secretary to put the appropriate resources in place to improve the operational tempo, that's my DOD words, but to get these appliance standards out the door quicker, faster and cheaper, all that. And I'm not laughing at the President, Secretary Chu. It's just that we need to turn them out faster, and we're working in accordance with the guidelines that we have. We have congressional mandates and language, and basically you can see here the 3 bullets at the bottom prior to the Energy Policy Act of 05. We had 11 of them completed. Since 05, we've completed 9. and by 2011 we have another 23 to do, and I have a list of those. Oh, shoot, there we go. And this has not been updated in the last month, and so one of these might come off. I'd have to take beverage vending machines if that's on here, but we're working that real time. But these are the 22 or 3 that need to be out the door here in the next year and a half. That's another area, our Appliance Standards program headed by Ron Lewis. There are, I think, maybe now 11 team members there. They're approved for 14. We've gone on record through congressional testimony that we need to improve that significantly and perhaps even reposition that elsewhere within the department to give it more visibility, more horsepower. Right now it reports to me, all of this that we've talked about winds up reporting to me. And it's a large portfolio, a lot of work, a lot of good work, and a lot of good people. Okay, now we're here at the end. So here's my contact information again. Scott Hine. We left the E out. I'd like to put Scott E. Hine in there. Acting Program Manager, Building Technologies Program, Office of EERE, Department of Energy. I'm in Washington, D.C. We are, for those of you that know DOE headquarters, we are not in the Forrestal building. We're up the street in 950 LaFont. Email address, phone number, and then a website as well. So I don't. Do you want me to open it up for a few more questions? Any questions? And I am here through the end of the evening, but I do have a 7:30 flight or what have you tomorrow morning, so I'm not going to be available to talk to anyone tomorrow. So if you do have any question whatsoever about any material I've covered today or anything about buildings, EE, the department, or anything we could do that we could do better, or perhaps opportunities for improvement that I'm not aware of, please let me know. Again, we're here together, we're in it together, and I can only get to my main objective, which was given to me through congressional language and the president through help from each of you. So any questions from anyone? Okay, well, thank you for your time, and best of luck, and have a good day.